fellow artists, and if you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm Mad Chen and I'm a digital illustrator. I create Procreate tutorials for beginners. In today's Procreate tutorial, I'm going to show you how to delete backgrounds in Procreate. Procreate doesn't actually have a tool that specifically deletes backgrounds. However, it's still possible to delete a background based on the methods that I'm about to show you in this Procreate tutorial. I'm going to show you 2 ways to delete a background in Procreate, plus I'm going to show you some Procreate tips on how to use specific Procreate tools to help you end up with the perfect image. Make sure you watch until the end of the video to learn all of these Procreate tips. So for today's example, we're going to be using this macaron image, and we're going to delete the background for this. I imported the macaron's image through Actions, then Add, then I clicked on Insert a Photo here. I'll place a Procreate tutorial link above and also in the description below on how to import images. You can see that the background of our macarons is not one solid color. The methods that we'll do today will get rid of plain as well as textured backgrounds. So first I need to show you some important things that we need to do before we start method 1. So the first thing we want to do before we start deleting a background is click on layers here, and you'll see background color as our bottom layer, and we're going to toggle off the checkered box here on the right, which now just leaves us with the image. The second thing that you should do is go back to layers and make a duplicate copy of your image. This is so that we have an extra copy in case we make any mistakes. So now I'm just going to toggle off the second copy below, and we're going to be working with the image on the top layer. So now we can start with method number 1. So we're going to go to the selections tool up here, and you'll see that a menu will pop up at the bottom of our canvas. Then you need to make sure that automatic is selected, as well as add down here on the left. And just make sure that no other tools are selected. So now what we're going to do is put our pen or finger on the background, and we're going to slide to the right, which will activate the automatic selection tool, and the top of the canvas will show us our threshold percentage. Sometimes when you're sliding your pen or finger to the right, you'll find that you accidentally select parts of the image that you don't want selected. You can fix that by sliding back to the left. Now it's important to note that lifting your pen or finger from the canvas means that you've committed to the selection, and placing your pen or finger back down on the canvas means that you're going to be making a new selection. So if you plan to slide back to the left, your pen or finger still needs to be on the canvas. My Procreate tip for you guys during this process is to delete the background in pieces. So as you can see, I've made my first selection. For now, I'm not going to go any further with the threshold because I want to avoid deleting parts of the macaron. So the next thing that we do is click on the transform tool up here. Then we're going to use 3 fingers to swipe down on the canvas, which will bring up a menu. And on the left here, we're going to click on cut. And I'm going to continue this process on the background of the macarons. So remember, we're deleting in smaller parts to avoid deleting our main image. So again, let's go back to selections, make sure that automatic and add are selected. We'll choose another area of the background to delete, and I'm going to activate the threshold again by sliding right on the screen. I'm going to click on the transform tool again, then I'm going to 3-finger swipe down and tap on cut. Now I'm just going to fast forward this part and repeat the same process for deleting the rest of the background. I also suggest that you go slow with this method so that you don't accidentally delete parts of your main image. Now when you've found that you've deleted as much as you can with the selection tool, we're going to start using the erase tool to delete parts of the background that have been left behind. The parts that we're deleting with the erase tool are the parts that weren't picked up by the selection tool. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete the rest of this before we move on. Now it looks better with the background gone. However, if we zoom into the macarons, you'll see that the edge of the macarons have jagged lines. So now I'm going to share with you 2 bonus Procreate tips to fix the edges. So the first Procreate tip that I'm going to give you is the use of the smudge tool. And we're going to use it to smooth out the edges of the macarons. And this will easily get rid of those sharp pixelated edges. If you'd like to know more about how to use the smudge tool, you can check out one of my tutorials, which shows you how to use the smudge tool in more detail, which I'll leave a link up above and also in the description below. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fix up this macaron. As we're smudging away, we can see tiny particles of the background, which I've missed deleting. So I'm just gonna go ahead and erase those parts before we continue on with smudging. If you're enjoying the content so far and would like to know more about how to use Procreate tools, you can subscribe to be notified of my upcoming Procreate tutorials. If you make a mistake, that's okay. Just use the 2-finger tap to undo a mistake. The second Procreate tip that I'm going to show you is the use of the clone tool. Now this tool is going to come in handy for those areas where you've deleted parts of an image that you can't just smudge to fix, such as the example down here on one of our macarons. So the way to get to the clone tool is through adjustments up here, go down the list and you'll find clone. I've also created an in-depth tutorial for how to use the clone tool, which I'll leave a link up above and also in the description below. That tutorial shows you a few different ways on how you can utilize the clone tool. I'll just go ahead and use the clone tool before we move on. And now we have our final image with our first method. As we zoom in, you'll see that the edges of the macarons are more smooth and we're left with cleaner lines. For our second method, we're going to be using the same macaron image. So let's go back to the selection tool, and this time we're going to select freehand. You also want to make sure that add is selected on the bottom left. So we're going to zoom into our image to make it easier to work with, and we're just going to draw around the edge of the macarons. Now I'm going to keep going around the macarons until I get back to the point where I started. I've also made an in-depth tutorial for how to use the freehand selection tool. If you'd like to know how to use the freehand tool, you can check out that tutorial by clicking on the link above or in the description below. I'll go ahead and trace the rest of the macarons before we move on. I've almost gone back to the start of my selection, and then now I'm just going to click on this white dot to close the loop. When you click on the dot, you should see some diagonal lines on the background. Then we'll go back to layers and click on the image of the layer that we're currently working on, which will bring up a list on the left, and then I'm going to click on mask. Then what we need to do next is merge the mask and the image below together by simply pinching the layers together to join them as one, and that's how you do the second method. The last thing I'm going to show you is how to export your image. We can do that by going to Actions, then to Share, then go down and click on PNG. PNG allows you to export images with a transparent background. And now you know how to delete a background in Procreate. Don't forget to check the links in the description below for those Procreate tutorials we spoke about today. Thanks for watching, guys! If you'd like to be notified of future Procreate tutorials, you can subscribe to Mad Chen and turn on notifications. If you have any questions, comments, or problems with Procreate, please leave comments down below because I want to be supportive and help you guys get better at using Procreate and also get better at your artwork. You can also check out my other Procreate tutorials, which I will leave links up above and also in the description below. I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next Procreate tutorial.